Welcome to the Fairy Whispering podcast, and I'm really excited to have Romona Myles with me today, who is the Chakra Alchemist. Ramona works with ancient Egyptian Kemetic teachings with her chakra work. She's from Chicago, Illinois. We're going to talk about fairies and Egypt and lots of other exciting stuff. She's a very magical person, and I'm really, really pleased to welcome Ramona today. So, welcome, Ramona. Great to meet you.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you very much, Claire.
Yeah, so we had a little chat, didn't we, a few weeks ago now, where you were sharing one of your fairy experiences. So perhaps we could start with that and then talk more about your Egyptian work, which is very magical as well. So yeah, you were talking about a fairy garden that you were creating as well.
Oh, yes. There's a wonderful story behind the garden, why it was created. I was visiting my daughter in Mississippi, and she found out that the nettle leaf and flower could be used as a tincture, right? So we got our recipes together. We went and got some oil, and we went out in her yard and picked some. And at the same time this was happening, the landlord had chopped down some trees in the back. And we both realized that there was a huge energy shift when that happened. I felt really heartbroken when I arrived and the trees were in chops and pieces, and the yard was a disarray. So it didn't help that we just went out and picked the flowers out the front yard. And we made the oils. We jarred everything. We put them back in a dark place for them to sit. When we went back to go get them, they're gone. Like, we couldn't. He was a baby. So she did some research for permission. We didn't ask for permission. We did find, I think maybe the previous tenants had little signs, like little fairy signs. It was really cute. What we found is that we didn't ask the fairies for permission, and so we couldn't find the oil. Now, yes, it was very interesting. So of course you spend some time like looking around, because you're like, I know, the someones were the fairies. So I made a garden, and I'll share photos. I've sent you some photos.
I'd love to see
the photos. But we found a beautiful big bowl. And I researched, I went on Pinterest and looked around for some ideas, and really couldn't find exactly what I wanted. But as a child, in my active imagination, I always used to think about little people and having a beautiful little garden for little people. So one day my daughter, we were going to just pick up household goods, tissue, paper towels, things like that. And because she had just had her baby. So she was excited to be out, And in the store was little miniature fairy garden stuff of these things. So I just went completely nuts. So I found a nice little settee, had a chair, a table, two chairs, and a little table. I said this would be perfect for sitting and having tea in the garden. A swing set, you'll see everything on in the photos. So when I got back home, I sat there and I was like, how should I design this, right? And it just all started to come together. But instead of planting fake flowers or putting fake flowers in there, I planted real stuff, mint and something else, another little flower that's small that can bloom, and then some of the nettle. And so I finished everything. I chopped up some eggshells, not very fine, but large enough to be little small
Yeah.
stepping
Oh,
stones. And
lovely.
I created a path going through the whole thing.
Mm.
And I put that out in the yard, and I wished them well. And that was my apology for not asking for permission. And, it's like, here's a beautiful garden for you.
Yeah.
Fast forward a year, my daughter
Mm.
had moved, still could not find the oil. She did take and relocate the garden, and she put it out on the in her yard and covered most of the side of it. So it's just, like it's embedded in the ground. And every year, the mint would grow, everything would just blossom, in there.
Yeah.
Here it is, maybe 3.5 years later.
Mm.
I'm on site working
Mm-hmm.
on the website project with a client, and
Yeah.
they have a horse camp. This is a place where, horse lovers who own horses, or if you
All
just like
right.
riding, they
Mm-hmm.
can come and ride and set up their trailers and things like that. So I came here, and my daughter drove from Mississippi to meet me here. Right now I'm in Southern Illinois. She comes, she brings the children, they go back home. She said they opened the door, or they were going outside or coming inside, and she said,
Mm.
"Ma, I saw a fairy." I was like, "What?
Wow.
Are you kidding?" The
Yeah.
first thing I thought about, because
Mm.
really we have been asking to, like, show us that we are okay. We did something wrong, let us know. We weren't
Mm.
the ones cutting the tree down, but we
Mm.
may as well have been, because we did something else to violate that space without even asking for permission.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things over that time frame for the within been shown to me, not only just from the fairy world, but other worlds of beings that we are interacting with and we don't know.
Mm.
That even with last night's meditation in my group, when I pulled a card, the card was basically about respect.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, because if you allow not just love to lead you, but what follows that would be the respect. That's the evidence
Sure.
of how
Mm.
you love yourself and something else,
Yeah.
is respect, right? If you
Yeah.
respect others, then that's one of the things that you will attract back to you, is more of why someone would be respectful of you. Such
Yes.
a wonderful lesson,
Mm.
beautiful lesson.
Amazing.
I just get excited and chills just
Yeah.
remembering that
And
experience,
uh, and this is yeah, it's really interesting because for that jar to appear a year later in a totally different place, and I've spoken to other people that this has happened to, where objects have disappeared,
Mhm.
come back a year or so later and turned up in a really, completely different place than it was left.
Yeah,
So do you feel that that was the fairies, or showing you that they were recognizing the respect that you were giving to them? Or
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And the mere fact that she saw one, she's like, it hit the ceiling. And I was like, so what did it look like? And
yeah,
she was like, okay, mom, we're not talking about cartoon Tinkerbell or anything.
yeah, yeah.
um, but she says it definitely, because I was thinking, well, was it a camouflage, a moth, or a bug? Or she was like, no, no, this was
Mm,
not. And by the time she even realized what she was watching and what she was seeing, she thought to get her phone, and all she could do was just message me. It was nothing else that, you couldn't see anything else. I
yeah.
think my grandson opened the door and was like, you know, um,
What did
but
it? Yeah. What did it look like? The fairy.
she really couldn't even describe it to me. I would
Mm,
have to let her describe it. And she
yeah.
didn't type it. I think she sent me a video recording. I mean,
Oh,
a voice recording. So
uh-huh.
I'll have to listen to that again. But she would say it definitely wasn't any kind of insect. It was a
Yeah.
fairy.
Ah,
Like, okay. wow, you know, I really
Yeah.
just took it as we were forgiven for that. You know, it was
Mhm.
ignorance in us, you know, and to make sure that we just, you know, express that and let others know that whether you believe in different entities or not, just have the respect for even just the story. Just
Yes.
have the decency to be okay with whatever someone is experiencing,
Yeah. Mm.
and just show just the basics of just respect. And in
Mm.
doing so, you show that to yourself, and the energies and the entities that others may be talking about. If you have never experienced it, then you are open. Then from that point on, you're opening yourself up to
Yes.
maybe
Yeah.
have encounters, right? That, you know,
Definitely.
I just feel that
Mm.
the more times we have conversations like this, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I definitely want to know how they look. So I'm gonna ask her again. This was last week
oh
when she
wow.
had that yeah, when she had that encounter.
Oh, oh,
This
that's
is very,
interesting, isn't it?
yeah,
Because
very new.
we've we've been talking for a while about
Mhm.
doing this talk. Isn't that interesting that we
Yeah.
managed to get this date in the diary and then a week before, a few days before, your daughter has that experience.
Hmm. Yeah.
Isn't that
It's
amazing?
ongoing. It's like
Yeah,
evolving. It's
yes.
ongoing.
Yeah, and other people I've spoken to, that's their experience. It's just something that keeps rolling. And the more
Hmm.
we interact and recognize these beings and
Yeah.
respect them, connect with them, the more experiences they bring to us. And
Right.
as we were talking just now, a few minutes ago, I saw another orb fly over my head that was caught on camera.
Oh
A little
my.
white orb. Yeah.
Okay.
So I can't see any insects in here. There aren't any flies. So yeah,
Well, that is so cool. Like,
yeah,
you know, I'm trying to look in the camera so that when viewers are viewing this, they're not seeing
mm,
me look down. So I'm missing whatever's
yeah. I
happening with
know.
you. I'm not able to see it until I look at you
Yeah,
on the screen.
interesting to look back. And you're also saying, Ramona, about the old pathway. Was that in Mississippi? The old roadway where the
Um,
soldiers used to
oh,
patrol?
the Natch, yeah, there's a parkway, a federal parkway called the Natchez Trace, uh
Oh,
Natchez Trace Forest Preserve, I think.
mhm.
Natchez Trace Parkway Forest or something like that. Yes, I think I told you about the there were Native Americans along that area. They
Mm,
were, some of the cities in that area are named after tribes. So you have Choctaw, the Cherokee, I can't remember one of the others, but I think this was in the Choctaw County. My
right.
daughter and she had found some research online about the witches dance. I think that was what it was called. And um, it's a location along the Natchez Trace where um, women and men, it was a group of people that would dance in honor of the many deaths that had happened through the
Mm,
natives at that time.
mhm.
So we know a lot about, you know, on a probably, hopefully on a global scale, how a lot of native people, when others came into the space,
Yeah.
slaughtered them.
Mm,
It was easier, I guess, to just kill them and then
mm,
take, versus allowing themselves to, you know, understand each other. And, you
yeah.
know, and I feel like
Mm,
in some cases, the slaughtering was justified simply because they realized that the people were very close to nature in the land, and they probably
yeah.
witnessed a lot of mystical things that had
Mm,
happened.
mm,
So, yeah, out of fear and ignorance on their part, they would
yeah.
just kill the people and just move
Mm,
right in. Well,
yeah.
when they move
Mm,
right in, they're still on sacred ground. And it
mhm.
doesn't mean that the energy and the history and the memories that land holds goes away, right? It's still there to this day. So,
Mm,
along with that, to we had decided, or actually we were guided to go there and, you know, and contribute to this. the work that we had been doing on at that time was pretty much ancestral. Like, it was our first time really deep diving into ancestral knowledge, just tapping into our own and waking things up, within ourselves. So long story short, we go and there's a storm.
Oh.
When we arrive, the storm breaks. It was as if there was no storm. There was time gaps in between. I think I was explaining to you before.
Oh no.
And
what was happening with the time?
Like time, like a gap in time, like where, we're learning now how time isn't what we think. Time's based on a bunch of memories that are collected together. So you can remember backwards and you can remember forward, and everything is happening simultaneously. And if you're present, you can experience everything, right? So I'm assuming that we were very present in setting the intention and going. So what felt like an hour, or what felt like 15 minutes, was an hour. Like, it didn't take us long to travel there, but it was a distance, but it didn't seem that way.
Wow.
And in that time frame of going from Amory, Mississippi to, I can't remember the actual location of the other place. I'll look it up and give it to you so you can see.
I'd love to see that.
Is a good distance of driving, and in the storm, like rain, it was heavy rain. And then all of a sudden there was nothing. And when we get there, we set up candles and things. We were led to a certain area around the tree. It's black, dark, off the road kind of thing. Wow. It felt really, really peaceful. That was one of the very few times at that time that I had been out in nature like that at night and didn't feel like something's watching you. Like, and that's just because it's a fear of the darkness. Like, after a certain amount of trees, you can't see anything, but you're hearing all of these sounds. So you're highly stimulated, and your mind starts to play a lot of fun games with you.
Yeah, sure.
Or you think you see something, you think you hear something. So all of these things are going on, but yet we're very focused. So we lit our candles. We did a dance. We did some breath work. And in that, we were guided to just say, you're free. So it was as if the souls were there and they just needed help. Like, the energy was stuck, stagnant energy, and it was stuck, and we helped release that energy.
Oh, wonderful.
So then on our way back home, when we leave the area, all of a sudden we're back in that storm again. And then it clears up like it never rained at all, or just a quick shower. It was as if we went into a space in time, and then we left it, and we were cleansed to go, and we were cleansed when we left. That's how I felt like it was an experience for us. And I'm so happy that we did that. And I can't even remember why. Like, when did that even start? I don't remember, like, what prompted us to even do something like that. But that's what she's my oldest daughter. And I guess it's how you can say that's how we roll. Whenever we get together, we have our stuff. We're going to have sage. We're going to have candles. I'm going to have my singing bowls. We have stuff that we carry around with us, and we do work wherever we go.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's fun. We really have fun with it.
Yeah, it sounds great, but it should be fun, shouldn't it? It should be joyful. For me, that's what fairies are about. I really believe that I connect with fairies because they're there to bring me joy in my life, and to be able to get away from being serious and see life from this joyful perspective. And what you said about the time, the change in time, that's very common in what's called over here, and maybe other parts of the world, being fairy led, where people go into a space where it's very quiet, even like there's no birds singing or anything.
Yes.
And they feel like they've gone into a different space and time. And time, like you say, they might be there they might think it's only, excuse me, I've got incense burning. We're just going to have a drink. Mm. Yeah, so we might think it's only 15 minutes, but then, like you say, an hour might have gone by, or 2 hours, or
Yeah.
they find themselves in a place that they can't find their way back to again. So it's like they've gone into a different dimension.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
think that's what was happening? Like gone into a different, like a different time or dimension?
I believe so, because of
Yeah.
the way it all just unfolded. It's as if we had to be cleansed before entering into that space, so we're not taking, and what I mean by cleanse, it's a physical, but it was also a mental
Mhm.
cleansing.
Yeah.
um Certain thoughts and emotions and feelings, you leave those behind. Now you're in a space
Mhm.
where you're going to focus on something intentionally, and you really need to be focused on it, not trying to remember what's for dinner, who did what last week, remember something in your childhood. You're not bringing those things into the space. And then when we left,
Yeah.
that shower, that rain was also a cleansing, leaving what we did behind, and then you go back to your own stuff, but just
Wow.
don't interfere with what you're working on. That's
Mm.
how it felt. And that's the the thoughts and the feelings that I got from that experience. So yeah, I
Mm.
really think that the more we do something like that, you will start to see patterns. So for
Yes.
that, it was the rain.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
sometimes it could be a high wind, it could be a silence or a shiver, or of
Mm.
something. You might feel cool, you may feel warm, but
Yeah.
for that particular evening, it was the rain. And rain, is the water that not only holds memory and knowledge, but it controls a lot more than water. It controls a lot
Wow.
more than we give it credit for. So
Well, isn't that strange? Because also one of the cards I pulled before you came on was water. Water.
wow, look at that.
Ah, and it's all about accepting your emotions, acknowledge your fluidity as a being. You are the hurricane, the iceberg, the lake, and the ocean. It's time to choose. If you sink or swim, dive into the depths of your unconscious. Everything is transient. Allow your discomfort to vanish with the tide. I allow my emotions to wash over me like water, cleansing my soul. Isn't that amazing?
What?
All that before we started.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it when everything's in alignment like this. That's so much validation right there. Wow.
Mm.
That's amazing. Like last night's card was the ancestral card. And
Right. Mm.
I used the cards from the New Orleans voodoo deck.
Oh,
This is
wow.
oh, it's a beautiful deck of cards.
Amazing.
And I was instructed to pull out all of the major cards, because
Mm.
everything that I will be talking about, even during the Lionsgate challenge, is
Yeah.
it's general yet specific at the same time. So it's
Mm.
like something that's going to cover a lot,
Yeah.
but only giving you one thing to focus on. And so when I
Mm.
pulled that card, it was the ancestral card, and respect was
Mm.
was the thing
Yeah.
that we got from the card the most. I love that. So water, you pulled a water card. Oh my,
Yeah.
and it talks like for the ancestral card, it talks about the fluid, like with the full moon,
Mm.
being in Aquarius,
Yeah.
flow,
Yeah.
fluid, our fluids. The fluids that are within our bodies are the same fluids that were in our ancestors until we get down to a singularity.
Yeah.
So this is so amazing.
It is amazing.
Ah,
I love it. I love it. Oh my
yummy.
gosh. Um, so tell me, I'm really interested in your Egyptian connection and the work that you do with chakras, and I'm really fascinated by Egyptian magic and mysticism, and yeah, so I'd love to
Oh,
hear about that.
Wow, where do I start?
I know, it's such a big area.
Right. I don't even know where to start. I can start with even with the card that I pulled last night.
Yeah.
Because it's an ancestral card. On that card, it talks about the Egyptian deity Horus.
Yeah.
Horus is the same energy named Heru. Then there's Heru Kahuti. Heru Kahuti is another version of Heru.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So this is in voodoo?
This is in the Kemetic, in the Egyptian teaching.
Egyptian. Okay.
Yeah. And so what the card is actually saying is, there's different versions of ourselves as we live. Yeah. And even through our ancestral lineage, there's still different versions, different dimensional versions as well. Yeah. And with that card, it speaks about the layers and the order in which things flow, like there is a particular order. And in that order, as you give respect and homage to and acknowledge your ancestors, you're also doing the same for you. So through Heru and Heru Kahuti and any other versions of Heru or any other versions of any of those other deities, just remember that as you give respect and honor to yourself, you are also giving respect and honors to others. So as I respect myself, I respect you. And as you respect yourself, you respect me. So I don't have to tell you that I respect you. You will sense it, you will feel it. And there's like a knowing. There's a knowing. So when I do verbally acknowledge you, it's like amplified, Yeah. When I say Claire is an amazing woman, okay, now there's amplification in that because any of the other actions that I show should show respect and vice versa. So in these cards with the New Orleans deck, it mentions a lot of the ancient Egyptian and the Kemetic entities and their backgrounds. And it also talks about the same ones in the voodoo pantheon as well. So the people that wrote this book and created this deck blended the two.
I see.
With the knowledge and understanding that one preceded the other.
Right.
They work very well together. So that's why even with this card, I can mention other pantheons from Hindu to the Yoruba teachings. I can mention even from Norse teachings. I can mention so many, Celtic even, and bring them all together for people to understand. So it doesn't matter what your beliefs are, what background you come from, there's always a common core. Yeah, so there's respect in all of the pantheons. And if you see the deities and you were to line them up, you can see where they all fit within you. And so that's why I feel like one deck, or not just one deck, this is my deck, I probably won't use another deck, but one belief system isn't enough. They're all pieces to a larger puzzle.
Yes. And
so as a child, knowing, like, seeing different things from fairies to shadows or whatever, becoming an adult and still holding on to that has given me the openness and the opportunity to see things a lot differently from the average person.
Yes. Well, can we go back? Can we go back and talk a little bit about any of your childhood experiences with any of these beings?
The only thing that I can remember is as a child, and I thought it was a reoccurring dream, but I always used to play with a snake and a rabbit. It was a white rabbit. I don't remember any stories or books reading about rabbits, maybe the Easter Bunny or something, but really, I didn't really believe in the Easter Bunny, so it didn't affect me that way. But I thought, like I said, it was a reoccurring dream.
Okay.
And I would be running around in like a shop or something that had display cases like a jewelry store.
Yeah.
And I would be running around and I was playing with my friend the snake, and my friend the bunny rabbit.
Okay.
After that, I had, maybe when I was like 7 years old, uh, these monster-like figures appeared, and I was afraid. So I was like, go away, and that was it. Those have been sort of my experiences in dream states,
Yeah.
but reoccurring, like they happen over and over and over again.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody about that. And actually, I haven't thought about it too much until we were talking about it before. And I started to remember. I was like, oh, yeah, I had my snake and bunny rabbit,
Yeah, because
but any kind of physical experiences, like some people see and they have interactions. I don't,
yeah,
but there's a sense of knowing that
yes, yeah.
happened. So maybe I don't have to see them, or maybe this lifetime I don't need that because it would be a distraction.
Yeah.
For me, I noticed that the people who do see a lot, they depend on that maybe a little more so than those who don't. I have to depend on other things, which is
Yeah.
mainly myself and no outside stimulation. Last night when I had my lights set up so that, because it was dark out, so I had my lights set up, and all of these little, I don't know what they were. I saw them again today. I haven't seen them at all since I've been here, but they're little things. They were flying around. I didn't really get to see them because I was focused on the meditation.
Yeah.
I didn't get to really look at them, but I saw them flying around. They could have been, hiding and maybe fairies in disguise or something, but they
Yeah.
really came out, and I was thankful for them being very supportive. They weren't biting me. They were just all over, like landing on the lights and coming around and sitting on my arm and on my legs.
Oh.
It was a good 15 or 20 of them. Any other time, I would have been freaking out because it was too many.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
last night, it was no problem. And this morning, it's like they greeted me at the door when I walked out. They were flying around.
Oh,
I
wow.
wanted to like capture one just to
Yeah.
see, but something said, no, just leave them, just let them be.
Mm.
Let them be whatever your mind and your imagination. I'm looking forward to setting up again for the Lionsgate if the weather permits.
Yes. Yeah.
And this time I'll be a lot more aware of what's in the space with me and take note on what I'm seeing
Yeah.
in there. Because I thought that they were little bees. Like we used to, when I was growing up, and when I would go visit in Mississippi, they would be hovering around, and we called them little sweat bees. I don't know what they, I don't think they're bees at all, but I haven't seen any since I was a child. And to see that many, I think it meant something.
Yeah.
And I was so focused on, what I was doing that I didn't give them the proper acknowledgement. I did thank them, but I didn't really just, zoom in and see exactly what they were.
Yeah.
But just beautiful little wings.
Oh, wow.
Little wings. I saw a couple of legs, I don't know why I just did not look and be like, what is this, and maybe hold out my hand or something like that. But I will next time.
It's a heart thing, isn't it? I think we know in our hearts with these experiences, you've taken your own personal meaning from it. And sometimes we don't need to scrutinize it, do we? We just, whatever comes to us, to our heart first, then just to accept that. And it's interesting with the white rabbits, because that appears quite a lot in folklore over here, and Celtic folklore,
Really?
and stories I've read about pixies in this part of the country that I live in, southwest of England. White rabbits quite often appear in fairy stories.
Okay.
There's the white rabbit in Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
So that's taken from folklore. So it's quite a potent symbol connected with the fairy realm here. Have you thought
And
about?
I wonder, I don't think I had seen I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
didn't mean to cut you off.
no,
I
it's
don't think
fine.
I had seen Alice in the Wonder. I don't think I had seen that movie at that age. I
Mm,
had to be around 3 or 4. I don't think I've seen the movie to even have seen the White Rabbit.
yeah, so it's like
Hmm.
something that came to you as a in
Mhm.
consciousness as a
Yeah,
personal symbol for you. Yeah.
yeah. And even the snake.
Mm,
The snake, the snake was a big, I was a small child. And as I was running around, the snake was a pretty good sized snake.
mm,
I, I I haven't figured that one out yet. Maybe now that it's coming up in the memory now, I can ask, what was the snake about? Was that my
yeah.
protection?
Yeah.
If so, it explains the Egyptian. It explains the Egyptian
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, with the cobra and the
Yeah.
and then you were coming on to speak about the Lion's Gate as well. Um, and
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
so do you want to talk about the Lion's Gate and what you're going to be
Okay.
doing for that and going forward? Because you were talking about what you're going to be doing for the next few months. Um,
Oh, yes.
yeah.
The Lion's Gate. Getting back to Egypt. Like I said,
Mm,
I had come here for my daughter's wedding. I moved to Egypt last year,
yeah.
and I thought it was going to be a quick in and out. Like I'd come for the wedding, take care of a little business, and head back. But
Yeah.
I've been on a journey
Oh, yeah.
since I've been here, and I understand why now. I really feel like I was supposed to be doing this Lionsgate challenge here on this land. This is in Southern Illinois,
Okay.
and it's called the Shawnee National. A lot of local Native American history here. Tragic in some
Mm.
cases, right? Um,
Sorry, could you repeat what it's called? Because you broke up.
Shawnee, okay, Shawnee National Forest is where I
Shawnee.
am.
Okay. Mhm.
Shawnee National Forest, and the owner of the campgrounds, her address is actually a part of the tale of the what is that? The Trail of Tears.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
something worth
Mm.
researching. It's
Yeah.
it's it's pretty
Yeah.
interesting history that took place here.
Mm.
So doing the Lionsgate challenge that I'll be hosting here, it'll be for 4 days. So by the time this airs, it'll be over and done with. But that challenge will help me introduce a program that I want to promote after that, which
Yeah.
is called it's Pursue Your Passion.
Oh,
And
sounds
I
amazing.
take people through steps on figuring out how to do some problem solving for themselves and
Yeah.
then and detach themselves from um, emotions and energies that no longer serve them.
Mm.
And in this process, it takes them on that journey, and on the transformational side of that, we continue on with either the Lionsgate portal tour that will be held in Egypt next year. And then
Yeah.
also there's a goddess retreat for most women, if we want to, just be
Mm.
women,
Mm.
that happens in October of
Oh, wow.
2024.
That
Now,
sounds
that one
amazing.
is another fire energy,
Mm.
because in ancient times, it was Sekhmet and Basset that they
Yeah.
used to host a festival on what we call now Halloween.
Mm.
So I think it's more than a coincidence that a fire festival for fire goddesses would be held on October 31st. And
Yeah.
here we celebrate that and call it Halloween. And we put on masks.
Mm.
When they put on masks of the goddesses and paraded around and
Wow.
doing fire dances, so it's like, come on,
Amazing. Oh, it sounds
come on.
amazing. Yeah.
Yes. So with that one, with that tour, if I'll have information about both, But for that one, it will have on the 31st, and especially depending on the moon cycle at that time, we will have a masquerade party on the boat that we will hold the events on. And we will also be able to go to one of the temples called it's Karnak Temple, where there's a Sekhmet sanctuary there. So we could do a ritual and meditation in that area. And it's about awakening that feminine fire from within inside and designing your life intentionally to live the way you want to live. And so that's basically what that's going to be about. I'm very excited to still write out the details. I have the itinerary. I just need to make sure all the details are in order and make sure I'm in alignment with everything. So I'm excited about those two things that are coming up for 2024.
Sound amazing. I was getting chills when you were describing that.
Oh my God.
I feel a connection with Sekhmet. I've painted her, I've drawn her.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wonderful.
In my work, in my fairy work, I quite often see like lion imagery in connection with fairies. So in nature, I've seen lions' faces. They quite often come through in connection with fairies because I feel that they represent this guardianship of nature and this return of the lion as well, because the lion's quite a powerful symbol that has been repressed as well. So I was just saying the other day, I released a video on my YouTube about a rock formation on Dartmoor. It's called the Lion, and it looks like a sphinx, this rock formation. And it used to be visible from miles around, and now there's like a forest that's been grown around it. So it feels like these symbols in the landscape and are being kind of suppressed in some way, maybe not intentionally in some ways, but maybe because people don't realize their significance in some cases. But so I'm really interested in lions.
Oh wow. Well, you know, a lot of everything that we do is cyclical. And so with that being said, everything happens in cycles. So when that was exposed, there was energy that was helping people with what they needed at that time. And then it was shut off. And now it's opening up again, you know. I've got to plug my laptop up. Hold on a sec.
Yeah, sure.
I probably need to just move before it cuts off versus trying to find a plug. Okay. I think this will be better. Sorry about this. There we go. There. Oh my gosh, not a good background.
That's fine. All right. Don't worry.
Oh my goodness. I wanted to be outside, but it's raining.
Oh, yeah, it's been raining.
That was my plan. I had a beautiful spot for us, and I said, well, I guess it wasn't meant to show that space today. The owners took me to a place down close by the pond, and she said they call it the fairy circle. And I was like, oh, this will be perfect. I can set up right here. But I guess it wasn't meant to be. Yeah. So in that circle, it's a pasture where the horses feed and graze.
Right.
And there's mushrooms, really beautiful, like mushrooms, like little they look like little rooftops.
Yeah.
And they're going in a circle. And the horses feed around it. There's no manure or anything in that area. It's like a beautiful circle. So they call it the fairy circle. She showed it to me 2 days ago. I didn't know about it before. So I'll take some photos. It looks like
Yeah.
So what I saw, this is how my imagination is.
Mm.
So when I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, like it looks like a little village that has overgrown simply because
Oh,
they're somewhere else on vacation. But when
yeah,
they
yeah.
come back, it's going to be cleaned up, and you'll see it'll look like activity. And she said,
Yeah.
how did you know? She said, sometimes it looks like someone has gone through and cleaned it up, but no one has. No one touches it. I was like,
Ah,
that's because they're away right now doing whatever they
yeah.
do, whoever they are. And when they return, they're going to come and clean up. So you don't have to
Oh,
bother this. Just don't touch it. And the
I,
horses don't
yeah,
touch it.
that's amazing. I'd
Isn't
love to
that
see some
amazing?
photos. Yeah, we call them
Yeah.
fairy rings over
Yeah, they
here.
call it a
Yeah,
fairy ring. I
fairy
was like,
rings.
wow. Have you heard of
Yeah,
that before?
yeah, yeah.
Really?
There's lots of folklore about them. When you see a ring of toadstools or mushrooms growing, that
There we go.
you're supposed to not step in because the
Hmm.
fairies will whisk you away. So the center of the ring is sacred to the fairies.
Oh my goodness, this is so amazing. Well, I'm gonna go take
Yeah,
photos and
yeah, that'd be
I'll
great.
send you the photos. But I had no idea. And they were so excited. I was telling them about the interview and they were like, okay,
Yeah,
you gotta come see this. And I
sounds
was like, oh my
amazing.
gosh, it's almost like a perfect circle. And you see the
Ah.
mushrooms, they look like little houses. Oh, it's just so amazing.
Oh, wow. Oh, I'd love, because if you send me photos of where you are and of the circle, I can
Okay.
put them up when I edit this. I can put them up for
Okay.
people to see. So yeah, that'd be great. It adds,
Okay.
give people
Awesome.
an idea of where you are. That'd be brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. I was hoping that would be the background for the interview.
Oh, don't worry, we can show people through the wonders of technology. Oh, so
Yeah.
is there anything you'd like to share about your chakra work, your Kemetic works? I don't know much about Kemetic, ancient Egyptian Kemetic
Um, well,
magic.
it's something that I'm really just now coming to terms with sharing. It's been such a
Mm.
huge part of my life, but it's
Yeah.
always been about rituals for me.
Mm.
The ancient Kemites and the ancient Egyptians, everything was ceremonial and ritualistic for them, and that's
Yeah.
how they lived their lives.
Mm.
And it's like I had always been doing this, just didn't realize where its origins were coming from until I started doing more of my own origin work.
Yeah.
And so when we did our blood test some years back, I think now they sort of manipulate some of the testing to make sure people are focusing certain areas. But when we did our blood testing,
Right.
wow, maybe 15 years ago or so,
Mm.
um, ours, our three major areas were Ethiopia, Northern Sudan, and Southern Egypt, which is in
Oh.
the ancient Nubian area. That's what they still
Oh.
call it Nubia today.
Yeah.
So when I went to Aswan, I'm seeing people that look like me, like literally
Yeah.
like my family.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh my gosh, so these are even some of the Sudanese people that I met that are from northern Sudan, and
Yeah.
then some of the people from Ethiopia.
Mm.
I just was just meeting people all the time, and they'd ask me, what part of the country am I from? Until
Mm.
I start to talk, then they go, oh, you're American, or where are you from?
Yeah.
So the resemblance and even mannerisms and behaviors are definitely there. So it's like I know where, just to have that sense of knowing where you're from, because
Yeah.
many of
It's
us
amazing.
don't,
Mm.
is important. So then my
Mm.
daughter, she had the latest test done, and I so they showed her that her, I think the highest, however they numbered this, however they rated,
Mm.
hers was from Cameroon. So I'm like, okay, this makes sense. Now, if I had heard
Mm.
this years ago, I would have been arguing about it. But because I've done enough study since, between the last 10 years. I know that the people from Cameroon and parts of Nigeria originated from East Africa. So
Okay.
it makes sense that they
Yeah.
would go in that direction, because it's just a little bit south and then going west, and they would end up over there in migration and
Yeah.
trading, So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing.
Yeah.
That
Incredible.
it helped me understand why I'm attracted to certain things,
Yeah.
certain parts of history. It just helped me make better sense of myself. And then
Yeah,
with
sure.
that, I was more comfortable with studying different cultures. So although those people went west, they also crossed the waters and went east, which landed them in southern India, which makes
Yeah.
sense in the world that I'd be attracted to Hindu teachings. So,
Oh gosh, that's amazing.
so learning a little bit about our history helped me understand that I'm not weird. I just have so many different aspects of myself trying to express itself, that now we live in a time where we can do this and not be put in a straitjacket.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I know.
So yes,
And did you,
I
sorry,
am. I'm ready. I'm ready to share more about my experience now.
I mean,
I'm not ashamed. I'm not afraid.
so when you first went to Egypt and you were, flying in, you landed in Egypt, did you feel an instant connection with that
Oh,
place?
did
Yeah.
I? Oh, it's very emotional. I arrived at maybe 2 a.m. in the morning, which a lot of times flights do arrive
Yeah,
coming, especially from Chicago. Um, so I arrived, it's like 2 a.m. My first time there was during Ramadan, which is
yeah,
the Islamic festival time
yeah.
for a month of
Mhm.
fasting, reconnecting, and all that. It's wonderful.
Hmm.
Um, so I arrive and it's like 2:30 in the afternoon. Everybody's up and they're all over the place. I'm like, what the heck? And the next morning, everybody's sleeping. So I'm
Yeah.
like, so I'm trying to figure out what's going on, right? Long story short, um, it was very emotional, especially when I got out, like when I walked out the airport. As a matter of fact, flying over to get to the airport, I just felt this emergence of energy. And
Yeah.
not only that, it was a full moon. It was one of the super moons at that time.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
we had to circle the airport a couple of times before we got to clear to land. So I got to see the moon like 3 times. With the first time
Wow.
when I was like, oh my God, it's a full moon. I didn't check. I forgot to check to see what moon cycle we were in and
Mhm.
go around. And then we went around the third time to start to land, to descend to land. And it was like I can close my eyes now. I took like mental snapshots. It was so huge. It's like I had never seen the moon speak to me the way it did that night. So anyway, I get there, we land, I walk out the airport. It was like walking into an oven. It was very warm, but
Mhm.
there was still this sense of peace that was there with me. And I didn't
Mhm.
mind that it was hot and sticky. I didn't mind that I had to get my luggage on the bus. I didn't mind any of the chaos that was going on. It felt like it was just so okay. And then when I went to the pyramids for the first time, oh,
Mhm.
it was an uncontrollable weep.
Yeah.
Not because
Yeah.
of just the
Mhm.
pyramids, but it was because I think that was the moment that I realized I had done something that I don't think anybody in our family had, for who knows how long, hundreds of years, had tried to do, which was to go back to that space, go back to an area that maybe it's part of your memory in your DNA or something. I don't
Mm.
know,
I
but
think so. Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Mm.
very, very emotional.
Mm.
I went live in my travel group at the time, and I was trying to play it off, but oh my gosh! And when I turned the camera off, I was like a baby.
Mm, mm,
And so when I went the second time, it's with my daughter, my oldest daughter, and we went to Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and from there we decided, hey, let's go over to Egypt because it's cheap, and we can go there for a few days and come back. That was the plan. But I had an awakening experience there. I went outside of our hotel back balcony, and all of a sudden everything just faded away, and I just saw all of these, I don't know if they were letters, numbers, or whatever. It was like raining down, and everything just faded away, and the letters and the numbers and things got really bright. And I was just standing there looking at all of this. And then my daughter comes out. She's like, Ma, I thought you were, she's like, what are you doing? She's like, you've been out here for over an hour. I was like, stop playing. I just got out here. I said, did you see all of that stuff? She says, see all of what? Will you come back inside? We got to get ready to go.
mm.
So apparently I had been out there for about an hour looking at something that she didn't see. And I didn't say anything else to her because I'm trying to process what happened. Like, what was that? The next morning, it happened again, but for maybe about 30 minutes. But for me, I had literally just walked out and she came right behind me, but she said it was about 30 minutes. So I mentioned it to a woman that I met online. We had been corresponding back and forth for years. She lives in New Orleans. She does a lot of energy work through mainly voodoo is what she does, but other things as well. So she had a little bit of knowledge of the Egyptian history. And she said, you had an awakening, you had a download. So over the next few years, you're going to get instructions that you can't explain. All I'm telling you to do is do it. Whatever comes to you, even if it doesn't make any sense, just follow suit. And honestly, now that I'm looking back over the few years, that's what I've been doing. It hasn't been anything out of the ordinary. It's just that I found that every time a bit of information comes to me, it comes to me as instructions, like here's what to do next. And then from there, more information will be led, or given to me by someone or something, I'll get it somehow, which leads me into what the Kemetic teachings were about. When you hear the average person talk about it, they're always talking about funerary stuff,
right?
Like everything about the afterlife. I think that some of that is true, but some of it is misinterpreted simply because the people that are talking about it haven't made the actual connection, and it's designed that way. If it's about the afterlife, that means the people didn't descend here. What if it was about descending and then ascending? Both. How we became physical from light beings to going back to being light beings.
Right.
So not all of that is funerary. Some of those are instructions on how we became, and then some of those are instructions on how to live as a human, and some are instructions on how to ascend and go back to source. That's like a complete story, right? Like, wouldn't that make sense? Like, why would there be an ending story about after and there's no before and present? It just makes no sense to me. Even our human behavior and patterns aren't designed that way. There's a beginning, there's a birth, right? We didn't just come here as grown-ups. We came here as infants, and we had to grow into adult humans. So stories were given to me with a different set of lenses. And it's like, look at it from this perspective, experience it before you teach, experience it before you explain it, experience it before you go and you start talking about it. So for the past 5 or 6 years, I've been experiencing. So I'm not afraid to do those quote unquote deep, dark rituals, simply because I understand that it's only tapping into the deeper aspects of myself, and I should not be afraid of me. Right? Shouldn't be afraid of me. You shouldn't be afraid of you.
No.
And so now a lot of that work has been given titles, shadow work, ancestral work and all that. but it's just work deeper. The deeper in you go, of course, the darker it gets because there's no light, literally no light. And that's what the Kemetic teachings are about. Anything before then, which is the Sumerian teachings, people don't realize that a lot of that was happening simultaneously. But because by the time the Egyptian story started to get told, you had an era where something had to be introduced to consciousness, and then consciousness had to be ready to start developing. And then there had to be a time of ignorance so that people can relearn.
Yeah.
Now we're coming out of the time of ignorance where everybody is learning and everybody has access to the same information. That is no coincidence. I think that is divine design.
Yeah, and I mean, these times are extraordinary, aren't they? There are so many people.
That's not a coincidence.
Waking up, yeah. And like you're saying, with your process, with your journey with this, it does take time to embed, doesn't it? And I can look back at things that I've experienced in retrospect over the last few years and think, okay, that's why I learned that then.
Yes.
And and then it's about, like you're doing, stepping forward into your power and saying, right, this is who I am, this is what I'm embodying. I can give this back to you now.
Yeah. Because they talked about energies and everything as well. Everything was about energy. Everything was about what we're learning in epigenetics right now, and how to be whole. So how you were whole, how you fragmented, and how you became whole again. That's basically the story. Like it's threefold. We learned it in literature or in creative writing classes in college and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
There's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end.
Yeah.
That's basically it. The story is so simple that we want to embellish it with everything. So we created all of this other stuff, which is a beautiful thing, because when we come back to the singularity of the first thought ever, that first thought wanted to know more. And so here we are.
Yeah.
We are all of those thoughts combined. And then we'll eventually end up back into that single thought again, where it goes, wow, that was great. Like, let's do it again. That's how I look at it. I are both women. We're living on different parts of the plane, and we look different, yet we have so much in common.
Yeah, and honestly, Ramona, I wish that I could just cross over into your screen now and
right.
just hang out with you for a bit. I feel like I know you because we've spoken a few times, but have that connection.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
I've got a little story about when I went to Egypt. I've got two sort of Egyptian connected stories. So before my children were born, I've got twins. They're coming up for 17 in September.
Wow.
I went for a holiday with my then partner, their dad, to Egypt, to oh gosh, I forgot the name of the resort on the Red Sea. It's a holiday resort on the Red Sea.
There's a couple of them. One is called Hurghada, and the other one is Sharm el-Sheikh.
Sharm el-Sheikh.
Sharm, you probably went there. Yeah.
We went to Sharm, and we were staying in this hotel, and every day we had this lovely Egyptian guy that would come and tidy our room for us, make the beds, and he'd make these beautiful towel sculptures.
Yeah.
On the bed. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
And we came back one day and there was a baby on the bed. He'd made a baby out of towels.
Wow.
And we saw him. He said to me, "You have a baby?" And I said, "I don't think so. Wasn't thinking I was pregnant." Anyway, we flew home. Within a few weeks, I found out I was pregnant.
Oh my.
Twins,
Oh wow, that's amazing.
That's amazing. I mean, I was only like a few weeks, probably about a month pregnant. Not even that.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, a few years ago, I went to, this is after that, I went to a sound healing workshop,
Mm-hmm.
and with a wonderful guy called Stuart Pearce, who works with the angels. And it was such a powerful workshop. And I came home, and that night I was in bed, just sort of drifting off. And I saw this guy, this man, stood by my bed, and he was an Egyptian man,
Mm-hmm.
dressed in, he had like a white garment on, like a long, I've got what to call them now, like a smock with trousers,
Uh-huh.
and a white hat. And he was stood there, and the name I received was Rohani.
Rohani?
Rohani, yeah. I looked that up the next day. I Googled it, and it means spirit guide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So was that
So
his name, or is that a name that
he,
he
I think that's what he was communicating with me, that he was my spirit guide, or a spirit guide. I've got several. And he was connected with Aswan,
yeah.
and the pyramid builders. So he was connected with the quarries at Aswan.
Uh-huh.
This
Yeah,
is
there's
the
yeah.
this is the information I received about him. So yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
Did you research the name to see what else may come up with that name?
Um, I think I'll have to look back. I think it's from Urdu. I think the name's from Urdu. Um,
And you said it's Rohami?
Rohani.
Rohani with the N.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Rohanni.
Oh, two N's?
Yeah,
Oh
Rohani.
wow. Okay. Oh, that's wow.
Mm.
I'll look that up. I'll look into it and see. That is
Yeah, so
really interesting.
that was a surprise for me, because I was like, oh wow, this
Wow.
connection with
Yeah.
Egypt. Yeah.
Well, so that's good that you've been. So and it's been almost 20 years.
Yeah, that was 2005. So yeah, about
Mhm.
gosh,
Almost.
18 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
So
went,
going there next year,
yeah, I'd love to. Oh my gosh. I'd love to. I'd
you
love to
see
come.
you see how much it has changed. Of
Mm,
course, over the years, everything changes, but it has changed in such a significant way.
mm,
You won't recognize it. Some things you probably
yeah.
still won't recognize, but I'm just saying, it has really, and even energetically, it has changed a lot. To the
Okay.
point where I don't think they're able to even control that. They try, but they're not.
Mm,
For example, the pyramids used to have a light show every night,
right.
and it would be held in English, German, I think in French, and then
Mm,
on another night it'd be English, Spanish, and I think German. I think they just rotate one of the
oh,
languages
okay.
out.
Mm,
Now, starting a few months ago, they
mm,
stopped it. It's been contracted out to for another company from another country.
mm, mm,
And, so now the Sound and Light show is on Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays, I think. I might be wrong, don't quote me on that. But
right.
I know I've gone out there a few times and there's no light show. They won't even turn the lights on. Usually they'll just have like the white lights on, and then they
Oh,
show. They even stopped doing that. So it's just dark. But you see movement. So it's like they're doing something. They just don't want people to see. They
oh,
know that the average people that live in the area aren't going to really pay attention too much of what's going on
mm,
there. And then most foreigners don't know where to look.
yeah. What What do you think
So,
about sorry, I was
no, go
gonna
ahead, go ahead.
what do you think about these stories? I mean, I've seen online about there being secret temples underneath the Sphinx and underneath the pyramids. Do you think there's any
Well,
truth in that, or
you have to know that there's more there.
yeah?
I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
you really do. Most sacred sites around the world go levels down.
Mm-hmm.
This one should not be any different. Why would these things be sitting on top of the ground? It makes no sense. No one built that way ever. We don't build that way now. When we build large constructions, we go several layers down and we have different basement levels. And then under that, we may even have something else. So to believe they're sitting above ground, I think is very naive. And them being older than what, most are going to admit to. Now you have people saying that they're, more than 6,000, 7,000 years old. There's a gentleman, his name is Larry Hunter, and he's done extensive research as far as water. He looks at the water level on a global scale.
Yes. Yeah.
And when he did this within Google Earth. So in Google Earth, you can do measurements on anything on there. But what he did was just focus on the water level. So for the whole planet to be consumed with water and for the water to recede, to evaporate or whatever it does, it's got to go somewhere. So I'm thinking more or less evaporation. And then you still have weather cycles where it adds more water, rainwater. So in this evaporation process, it takes millions of years to get from what we see as a water planet to what it is now. I don't think anybody would argue against that because it's something you learn early in school, geometry. I mean, not geometry, geography. So, and even in geometry, you learn a little bit of something. We just didn't understand how to read this knowledge that way. But in his findings, he realized that there were certain structures that were underwater before the first full flood, that we contribute to the story of Noah. So we contribute that to biblical stories. But there was an actual time when there was water after there was other activity going on here. So he predates the pyramids further back, like millions of years. And in his findings he showed me where, as he was taking the images that Google Earth would help him produce, when you look at the actual pyramids themselves, you see the water lines. And he said that the reason why that they're not trying to tell you any dates based on the way they carbon date stuff is because you can't do that. You have to look at the material they use and then actual water lines that are on the pyramids. What? You go to Western Union, let me know. Okay, thank you. So in a short story, when you follow the water lines, he's got how long it takes for water to recede based on, I think, every 900 to 1,000 feet. And it was just amazing to see all of the work that he had done over the past 30 years of him, working on this before Google Earth was Google Earth. And when he's gone to Egypt about 40 times, and every time he's gone, he comes back with new information. He's got so much information on just Egypt and the pyramids themselves. It's just mind blowing. I've tried to interview with him and work with him, but a lot of our scheduling, hasn't worked out right. But he was on Gaia TV on one of the episodes. Just look him up, Larry Hunter. And he talks about it because he talks about the whale bones in Fayum. And he helps you understand the timeline. Once you grasp the concept of the timeline, you can let go of all the other stories. Because then you honestly realize that those structures are like all the other pyramids around the world are millions of years old. Not just that one, but all of them are. And there's a gentleman by the name of Michael Tellinger.
Yes.
Michael Tellinger, yes.
Yeah.
Michael Tellinger talks about the energy fields that are around in South Africa.
Yes.
And it's like several people, if they would sit their egos on a shelf long enough to come together and bring their information together, it would make total sense.
Yeah.
The reason that the pyramids that are in Egypt and the pyramids that are in South Africa look so different is because of those energy fields. They have a lot to do with time. If an energy field slows, quote unquote, slows down this process of aging, faster or slower than another one does, whatever's in that space is going to be evidence of it. We're going to see it as evidence of the measurement of time or the measurement of how something ages. I won't say time, but how something ages. So Michael Tellinger says that the pyramids in South Africa predate the ones that are in Cairo or in Giza.
Wow.
But when you look at them, the ones in Giza look older. Well, the energy field that the ones in South Africa is different. And these have everything to do with our ley lines, our energy centers. The earth herself has an energy center. So if that is an area where the energy is cyclical or is going in a different cycle or speed or frequency, then we're going to witness whatever is in that frequency different from any other frequency. The pyramids in Giza have been dried out. The pyramids that are in South Africa are still part of wetlands. They have trees and vegetation on them. So they're in totally different frequencies. So one that may look that's older can look younger than the ones that appear to be older to us. And without any of this knowledge, you would look at that and just take the first explanation for what it's worth and be okay with it. But when I started listening to what Michael Tellinger was saying, I was like, wow, this information needs to be applied to all the pyramids around the globe or around the plane. And then people can have a decent conversation. Right now, it's just one-sided. People say, oh, those are however many years old, and the Sphinx is however many years old, but they're missing valuable information. So it's like with Larry Hunter and Michael Tellinger and a couple of other people who have great theories. If they were to come together and bring all of it together, the sound, how the pyramids were built were not by people. Like, you cannot at this day and age still believe that, but people do. So I'm like, okay, that's okay, that's fine. That's as far as they've gotten with the consciousness of that. But there's some materials. Have you become familiar with the raw materials, the book of
I've heard of the Book of Ra. I haven't indulged in that and read it. But
oh my gosh, I came across this early 2000s, maybe. Has it been? Yeah, the early 2000s. And I printed them out, and that took a lot. I printed them out. It took a lot of work. And then I printed some certain sections of them out again, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. But I've come across this material so long ago, and I started, doing even more research and finding out how things are introduced into our consciousness as a collective. And with that being said, I love talking about this, so I haven't got way off track.
No, I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
How we learn things is information is introduced to us on an unconscious level collectively. So that's why you and I are able to talk about fairies so freely, is because the idea and concept was introduced to our consciousness on a frequency that we vibrate on when we talk about this. When we're not talking about fairies, we're vibrating on other frequencies, we're doing other things. But the moment we are talking about fairies, we start to vibrate on that same frequency, which means anybody else that's consciously aware of that will understand it, will find this information, and will resonate with it. That's all that means. It doesn't mean we have to agree on every single thing after that. It's only on the fairies and whatever else is on that frequency. So what I can see is when we're talking about fairies, and then I'm talking about some of the Egyptian knowledge and some of the other stuff, they must be on the same frequency.
I feel that because I feel it in my heart.
Yes, right? You feel it. So if they're on the same frequency and you feel it in your heart space, then there's something about that frequency that's going to hold a lot of information if we just sit in that frequency long enough with the awareness of and being able to receive what we get with open arms. Like just say, okay, it may not seem okay at first, but I'm open to learn more. Or this may seem a little weird, but I'm interested in learning a little more about it. Then you can maintain yourself on that frequency to gather up more information. But as long as it's in bits and pieces all over the place, and you really don't sit in that frequency long enough to get educated enough, you'll continue on with everybody else's habits of just bits and pieces of stuff.
Yes.
So after I realized just that little bit, I started to sit in frequencies long enough to where you can see all of the truths unfold.
Yes.
So you have so many brilliant minds that have great information, but everybody's trying to be right. And if they just come together, they will get more of the puzzle piece that they're looking for. So with Larry Hunter and just those two, and the gentleman that does the sound stuff, he has this thing in Florida where he proved that he created this environment based on sound. Yeah.
The castle.
Yeah, yes, it's a castle something.
Yeah.
Just imagine if those three pieces of information were studied together.
I know.
Can you imagine,
so
right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to start proposing that, like in conversations, so that what happens is collectively we start to think about those three things together, and we start to see the evidence of it because we'll be on the frequency of it, right? And you start to see the evidence of it. Now, you have people, organizations that know this already.
Yes.
And so a lot of this information is kept in a way where people can research. So then when you have writers who go to this certain institute to pull off information to research, they create movies. And what happens is we watch the movies with fragments of the information is introduced to the unconscious collectively.
Yeah.
And then we start to experience it as manifestations in our existence. That's the false way of introducing something to consciousness.
Yeah.
But I think right now we're at a by any means necessary to wake up enough people that if you see a movie that resonates with you on a certain frequency, the frequency will then introduce the truths behind the falseness. And then you hone in on that. And that's when you start to meet others that you can resonate with on that frequency. And the frequency will straighten itself out. It doesn't need our help. We're in it. It's not in us. So we go into its space and hold our space, hold our thoughts and our feelings long enough to start having these experiences. And that's what I was getting from all of the teachings. It's just that one thing, like sit in something long enough. And then when you do, you'll start to honor and respect yourself. You'll start to see the results of it. The water will be, all the elements will start to show themselves. The water will be introduced. The fire will be introduced. Like air will introduce itself to you in that frequency. Earth herself will introduce itself in that frequency. And then we have these amazing experiences. So it's like, wow, like, can we hurry up and get this going? Because it's going to be a party.
love that. I love that explanation. Um, yeah, for me, like you say, sitting in a frequency of something,
Mhm.
that's what I do with my fairy work. It's about trusting what you're receiving. It's like what we were saying
Yes.
earlier. It's
Yeah.
trusting what you're receiving as your own experience that you are then contributing back to the wider
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Yeah.
So instead of, like you say, chatting about TV programs or films and oh my God, you see that film? It's about turning the film off and going out and experiencing it for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
saying, right, well, I'm interested in connecting with fairies or whatever it is, reading about it, but embodying it yourself, isn't it? And
Yeah.
like you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
so that then it's coming
Because
from
what if that was the only
intrinsic.
way that it could be introduced to you was through a movie or a book or a
Yeah.
TV show?
Mm, mm,
It doesn't mean that you take that for a truth, but it was a way to be able to introduce something
yeah.
to your consciousness. And then you on your receiving end saying, hey, there's something about that that I remember.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, let me find out more about that. And
Mm.
then for those that
Oh,
doesn't,
yeah.
they'll just go, well, I don't like that. That's stupid. Okay, well, it's not for them.
No.
No, it's just
Yeah.
not for them.
Yeah. When I think about like, oh my gosh, think about Disney, all
Mhm.
the children, as children, we watch all these Disney films, and
Yes.
that kind of way of seeing the world is very much embedded
Hmm.
from an
Yeah.
early age, isn't it? Well, of a
Yeah.
certain.
And just imagine the writers at that time had their hands on information that was sacred. So a
Mm,
lot of these Disney stories are based on sacred texts.
mm,
And those who studied that sacred text in out of the respect of wanting to know and embrace the knowledge were used to interpret it.
mm.
And so when people were writing this stuff, like you look at some of the old Disney films, they are so deep. And it's like, why
Yeah.
would they be shown to children? Well,
Mm,
the energy itself knew that at that age, if it's shown to children, 50 years from now, these children will be
mm.
holding or be able to tap into a frequency that's going to better suit society as a whole.
Yeah.
The energy itself knew that. We didn't know it. The people who were writing it didn't. They just wanted to make money,
Yeah.
but they were used as well. So I
Mm,
don't even fault them anymore. Like the energies in themselves used whatever it had to do to make
mm,
its way into our consciousness on a level where it appears for us to be free will. Free will still plays a
mm.
big part in all of this.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, it's up to everybody to make their own choices and decisions, but it was at least introduced.
Mm.
Like, it's like, here's
Yeah.
something here and here's something over here. Both are coming from the same text. They just look different. Which one do you want? You want the one that looks good, that's not good for you, or you want the one that tastes terrible but is good for you? It's like one of those things,
Yeah. Gosh, that's got me thinking. That's got
right?
me thinking now. Oh my God.
Yeah. That's this is what's going on up here all the time.
So my mind's going, but what about, oh my God, what about like 500 years ago when there was no film and television, no books, and people couldn't read, but they were still passing on stories, weren't
They
they?
were telling stories.
They're
Yes, they
telling
were telling stories.
stories.
Mhm.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, the power of stories.
The power of the vibration of sound, creating
Yeah.
words, is what's
Mm,
creating all of this. The moment we speak something, there's a vibration
mm,
that starts to take place, and we just don't see it. Like
mm.
the parrot right now is still dancing. Like, and when I was playing the singing bowls, whenever I hit each one,
Yeah.
because each one has a different pitch. It would do this, it would shiver or twinge, twinge. But when I played all of them in the order from the root to the crown chakra, it started dancing. He was like jamming to the and then when I would hit one single sound, he would do this again. And so I hit each one of them in the order, and then he started dancing again.
What's the parrot called again? I just have to tell people that are watching who we're talking about. We're talking about
the parrot. I'll put a picture in there too. His name is Jewel.
Jewel.
Yeah. I'm not a parrot expert, so I don't know what kind of parrot or parrot, or is that what you call it? But they call him Jewel because he looks like jewels. He's got all the colors of the rainbow spectrum on him.
Fabulous. Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, we got to have a picture of Jewel. Yeah.
Oh, I will. I'll even send the video of I recorded it for my children to see, so I'll share that. But I was saying to them what I was just explaining. I hit a note and he would do this. But when I hit all of them together in the order from the root to the crown chakra, he was bouncing. He was
oh, sweet.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch an animal like this is a bird, and parrots do have vocals. So he says hello, he says goodbye, he says help.
Help. Oh,
it's amazing. It's amazing. Wow, like
incredible.
I couldn't have dreamt of this. I couldn't have made this up.
So, Romona, it's been amazing talking with you. There's so much we could talk about. Can you share with everyone how they can find you and anything that's going to be coming up?
Yes. Well, like I said, I do have the Lionsgate challenge that's coming up. People can still join that group. The group name is Wealth and Prosperity Through the Principles of Energy. I'll send you the link to that.
Yeah,
that's the group where I will more than likely, as the Chakra Alchemist, do a lot of activities, not only just the portal challenge, but I'll have other things that I'll do in there as well. I've done meditations in that group. I've done work through the moon cycles, explaining the moon cycles in there. So I'm gonna really, really focus in on that group and put together. I do have what I'm going to offer is a prosperity plan for the rest of 2023, and then for the whole year of 2024. It's some really good questions that you ask yourself on where you want to be in your income bracket or your income level. And then I also have with it is a breakdown of the Sri Yantra, which is the major yantra in Hindu, where it's levels of it that match the levels of our energy centers. It matches the levels of just about everything in creation. And so with each level, you have questions that you will ask yourself and answer in depth. And then at the end of it, you will have a more clear and intentional purpose for working towards your goal. And most of the time we're working towards something because we need some kind of financial assistance to help us live. But although that will be the results of the work you do is more important. That way you're not chasing money. You're not chasing goals and trying to figure out everything. We're gonna flip it around a little bit and have the transformations happen within you. And then the result of it will be whatever your natural gifts are, really should be what's bringing you your income so that you can live and enjoy, your experience as a human here. And I've had to do that. And so it's something that I feel really passionate about, because like if we can just get this in our spirits, in our souls, let our souls just rest in this. If we can get on track with our spirit sparking off the right sparks for us, keeping us in alignment with our higher selves, then our souls will be pleased with the experience that it can take back to source. That's how I envision all of this. And once I started thinking this way, it sort of shifted even how I was feeling. Like I grew up with eczema.
Yeah.
And so the healing happened because of my reorganizing my thinking patterns. As I was growing up, I had these self images that weren't, trying to find a really kind word. I guess most of us can relate to it. Like you just beat up on yourself. You compare yourself to others. You just don't feel like you're worthy enough, good enough, all of that stuff. And so I would look at other little girls and wish I could be like them, not really understanding at the time that what they were thinking about me was quite the opposite. Like, I wish I could be like her. And so it's amazing how you don't value yourself enough to understand, you are enough. And so going through a process like trying to make money could be affected by that, those thought patterns. So through this process, we work through the transformation of that. And on the opposite side of that, you will see a difference in a lot of the things that you desire will start to unfold for you. You will be in alignment with attracting the things that you want to experience. And you will be setting intentions that also are in alignment with Earth herself. Like we have our own personal intentions, but you better believe the universe has intentions as well. And because we are a part of the universe, guess whose intentions are going to supersede yours if yours isn't in alignment. So it's not to say that it's that parent-child relationship thing. It's just the deeper aspects of you, when it's time for that part of you to want to come out and be expressed, it will find a way. It will find a way. So this helps guide that. And I know that by the time anybody is taking on, if not, you're just not going to understand it. So it's just not time for you right now. And that's fine. And it's okay. So that's what the group is basically about. And then from there, the intention for me personally is to get people to Egypt to have that self-initiation, like that that part of you that goes, okay, so we've done this work. Okay, now what? Okay, well, then you go to Egypt and you really experience all the things that you've learned. You experience it firsthand. And then when you come back home, there's follow-ups. There's things, because you're still active in the group, there's follow-ups. And you may choose another location to go visit to have another experience. I only focus on Egypt, but maybe over time, someone else will come into the group that focuses on South America or Europe or, somewhere else.
Wow, sounds amazing.
Only on Egypt. That's the only information I've been given to, the only destination I've been told to focus on. So I'm open and waiting and excited to expand the group more, so where people can go to other places as well.
Great. So you'll send me the links for that, and I can share with people.
Okay,
thank you.
I'm so excited.
It's so exciting. Gosh, it just sounds mind-blowing what you're doing, and thank you for doing what you're doing and for coming.
Thank you.
And spending some time to speak with me today. I really appreciate this conversation. It's been awesome. We've been talking for nearly 2 hours. It's just flown by.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I know I've done a lot of talk. I love talking, but it's so amazing to be comfortable enough in a space where I feel comfortable to talk. Like, I didn't hold back.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. Well, this is I tend to just see where things go, and it's just nice to talk to people. So thank you for Romona, and